Trade season is always wild, and for a team like the Chicago Bears, sitting at that tipping point between building and contending, it's not just about chasing the big names. It's about being smart, calculated, and maybe even sneaky. While everyone's out here fantasizing about blockbuster trades, dream signings, and flipping the roster overnight, let's take a moment to talk about the real game. Finding value moves that fly under the radar, but still make this team better right now. Let's start with a name that might raise some eyebrows, Calais Campbell. Look, the guy's pushing 40, but don't let the birth certificate fool you. He's still out there getting it done. The Cardinals are in free fall. They've lost 5 straight, and at this point, they're clearly looking more at draft positioning than playoff contention. That opens a door. Campbell could be had for cheap, maybe a late-round pick swap, and what you'd get is not just a veteran presence, but someone who can still be productive in a rotational role. He's a tone setter. He brings that leadership, that edge, that playoff mentality. And for a team that's still trying to find its identity up front on defense, that matters. Then there's Rasul Douglas. Miami might be heading for a fire sale if things don't turn around quick, and if I'm the Bears, I'm calling every single team that looks like they're packing it in. Douglas is a guy you can plug into the secondary today and get better. Not flashy, but dependable. And look, Tariq Stevenson avoided a major injury, which is great news, but that doesn't mean you're all set at corner. Depth at that position is crucial, especially when you're going against some of the best passing attacks in the league. Add in the fact that you've got young guys who've been inconsistent. Yet it's time to fortify that back in just a little bit more. Let's talk about Tyree Wilson for a second. Remember that hypothetical floating around about Braxton Jones for Wilson? Now, I'm not saying it's happening, but that kind of creative deal is exactly what polls should be exploring. You take a player who might not be the best fit here and flip him for another guy who might need a change of scenery. Wilson hasn't exactly lit it up in Vegas, but the upside is still there, especially if you get him in the right system with the right coaches. If the price is right, a cheap player or pick swap is at least worth exploring. Now, Kyle Van Noy. This is a name I've always respected. He's a football guy. No nonsense. Still a solid pass rusher, even if he hasn't been as effective this year as in seasons past. But the man knows how to get to the quarterback, and at $2 million, that's value. He's more of a 3 to 4 fit, so you'd use him in specific situations, but again, that's the point. You don't need him to be an every down guy. You need someone who can help you get off the field on third down. That's where Van Noy can still shine. There's also Alani Taylor. He's having a solid year with the Saints, and he's someone Dennis Allen trusts, so that tells you a lot right there. If the Bears want to add another body to that secondary, he's a name that makes sense, especially if there's any concern about depth or injury insurance. Look, Kyler Gordon's been fine. Jalen Johnson's obviously your number one, but injuries happen, and you can't afford to be caught thin in the secondary in November or December. Notice what all these names have in common. None of them are running backs. And that's not an accident. I'm just not convinced that's where the Bears need to make a move right now. Sure, DeAndre Swift's name comes up, and yeah, he's explosive, but is he the missing piece? I don't think so. Kyle Monangai is still young and raw, but the Bears are running the football well enough. Maybe they're not number one in the league anymore, but they're still productive on the ground. If they can keep that trend going, even at a slightly lower level, that's more than enough to compete. Save the running back shopping for the offseason unless something drastic changes. So for me, the focus is clear. Cornerback, defensive line. That's where you can find value. That's where one smart, under-the-radar move could really shore up this roster. You don't have to mortgage the future. You don't have to throw away premium picks. You just have to be smart. Think strategically. Find a player that fits what you need today without blowing up what you're building for tomorrow. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about Caleb Williams and this offense. There's been a little buzz about whether the play calling is holding him back or if there's too much being funneled through one guy like Romo Duns. And honestly, I don't buy into the criticism. If anything, I think they could be using Rome even more. He only had 6 targets in the last game. That's not enough. He's the best receiver on the team, the chemistry with Caleb is there, and the offense has looked best when he's the focal point in the passing game. This isn't about spreading the ball around to keep everyone happy. This is about getting the ball into your best playmakers' hands. Now, that's not to say everything's perfect. Caleb has missed some throws. There have been drops. And yes, maybe the offense was a little too conservative at times. But let's not forget, this is a rookie quarterback. There are going to be bumps in the road. That was expected. But the relationship between him and Ben Johnson, that's what gives you hope. You can see the trust building. You can see Ben pushing him, holding him to a high standard, but doing it in a way that's constructive. That calm intensity is rare. Most young coaches either go full drill sergeant or try to be everyone's buddy. Ben's found the middle ground, and that's not easy to do. That's the kind of coach who can really get the most out of a young quarterback. Now, I'll say this. If the Bears make a real run and somehow take this division, you've got to put Ben Johnson in that Coach of the Year conversation. Right now, Shane Steichen probably has the edge, but Ben is right there in that next tier with guys like Mike Vrabel. And honestly, he's exceeded expectations. He was my top choice for this job, and he's delivered even more than I thought he would. Back to Caleb real quick. People keep bringing up his height. Is that part of the reason for some of his struggles? Look, he's not towering over anyone. He's around 6'1", maybe a little more. That's not tiny, but it's not ideal either. And yeah, when your interior offensive line is getting pushed back, it's harder to see the field. It's harder to stay in rhythm. That's why solidifying that interior was such a priority. It's probably a small factor. I don't think it's a game breaker like with a guy like Kyler Murray, but it's something to keep an eye on. What's more concerning is the pace Caleb's been playing at since the bye week. He just seems a little rushed, like his internal clock is sped up. Before the break, even when he missed throws, he looked more composed. That rhythm and bass just isn't quite there right now. But again, it's a rookie quarterback. That's part of the process. Let's shift to the defense for a second. There's been some talk about Tremaine Edmunds and whether he's earned an extension. Here's where I land on that. Not yet, but he's trending in the right direction. He's under contract for another season at $18 million, so there's no urgency. You let this thing play out. But if he keeps stacking solid performances like he has recently, it becomes a conversation. He's clearly more comfortable at the linebacker spot than he was playing Mike. And next to TJ Edwards, who, by the way, has been playing at an all-pro level lately, you've got a really nice duo. If Tremaine keeps this up, maybe you start talking about an extension that lowers the average per year but locks him in longer. You don't have to force it, but at least now it's on the radar. And speaking of radar, what's going on with Rashawn Hiplight? Some people are floating the idea of moving him to corner because of his speed. Let's pump the brakes. Just because a guy runs a blazing 40 doesn't mean he can flip his hips and stick with NFL receivers. Playing corner is about more than speed. It's about technique, footwork, instincts, and honestly, a certain level of fearlessness. It's one of the hardest positions in the league. You're out there on an island, and the rules are stacked against you. I don't think Hiplight's future is at corner. If anything, maybe he can convert to safety down the line, but even that would take time. Right now, he's a healthy scratch. And yeah, that's not great. But the linebackers ahead of him are playing well, so it's not the end of the world. Let's not panic just yet. The trade deadline is approaching fast, and all eyes are on Ryan Poles to see if he makes a move, or if he decides to ride it out with what the Bears have. But let's be real, even if the Bears don't swing for the fences, there are still some decisions that could quietly shape this season and even the future. That brings us to the kicking situation. Yeah, it's not always the flashiest topic, but when a game comes down to a 48-yarder in the wind, suddenly your kicker is the most important guy on the field. Cairo Santos has been steady, no doubt about it. He's not going to hit a 60-yarder, and he's not the kind of leg you want to gamble on from deep, but inside his range, he's one of the most accurate guys in the league. The question now is, has Jake Moody done enough to start a real conversation? The answer might depend entirely on this next game. If Cairo doesn't go and Moody gets elevated one more time, his last free call up from the practice squad, and he delivers again, the pressure is going to mount. Let's be clear, Moody hasn't hit anything that Santos can't, but if he nails a 57-yarder or shows that extra gear when the Bears need a leg, now you've got a real debate. And it's not just about this season. Cairo's in his mid-30s, and Moody could potentially be the guy long-term. If you got a kicker who can give you both consistency and distance, that's a weapon, and it's something that could tilt a close game in December or in a playoff race. For now, it's still Cairo's job to lose, but this upcoming week, It's huge. One big kick, and Moody could flip the whole conversation. Let's jump over to another roster question that's been gaining steam. Theo Johnson at left tackle. After 2 games, the jury's still out. One good performance, one not so good. The Washington game exposed some of his flaws, especially in pass protection, and he had a couple of rough penalties that stalled drives. But the run blocking was noticeably better with him in the lineup, and that's been a huge emphasis this year. He's more physical, he finishes plays, and that's something that's been lacking when Braxton Jones is out there. That said, the arm length concerns are real, and in pass protection, it can show up against elite edge rushers. The Bears might just have to live with some of those issues for now, because unless someone else steps up in a big way, Theo is probably your best option for the rest of the season. What happens after that? That's a different story. Maybe you look at sliding Aussie to the left side next year, or maybe you go back to the draft well. But short term, this is probably the path. Let's talk about the best move Ryan Poles made this offseason. There's been a lot of attention on the big names, but if we're talking about pure value and impact, Joe Thuney might be the guy. He's been exactly what this offensive line needed. No penalties, no sacks allowed, barely any pressures, and he's brought a level of consistency and professionalism that's contagious. You can see in the way the line plays, cleaner, more disciplined, more confident. He's that veteran anchor that keeps things steady when chaos hits. And for a young quarterback like Caleb, that kind of presence up front is huge. He doesn't have to second-guess what's happening on the blind side. He knows Thuney has it handled. When you add that to the fact that the Bears got him for a 4th-round pick and extended him at a reasonable price, it looks like one of the best acquisitions not just of the offseason, but of the entire Poles era. And yeah, he's in his 30s, but he's playing like a guy with plenty left in the tank. 2, maybe 3 more solid years. That's a big win. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In a move that has sent shockwaves across the NFL, the Chicago Bears reportedly announced the departure of star wide receiver Luther Burden, leaving fans and pundits alike scrambling for answers. While official statements are scarce, sources close to the team suggest that the decision was mutual, though whispers around the league hint at deeper tensions behind closed doors. The timing of Burden's exit, just as the season gears up, has only intensified the speculation, with some insiders questioning whether contract disputes or personal issues played a role. Burden, known for his explosive speed and uncanny ability to make game-changing plays, quickly became a fan favorite since joining the Bears. Social media erupted almost immediately following the announcement, with supporters expressing disbelief and frustration. Memes, hashtags, and heartfelt messages flooded platforms as the team's faithful struggled to process the sudden loss of a player many considered irreplaceable. It's like losing the heartbeat of our offense, one fan lamented online, echoing the sentiments of thousands who had come to rely on Burden's electrifying performances week after week. Within the league, the news has sparked a frenzy of speculation about where the talented receiver might land next. Rumors are already circulating that multiple teams are lining up with offers, and some analysts suggest that a surprise trade or signing could reshape the balance of power in the NFC. Meanwhile, Bears insiders remain tight-lipped, fueling the rumor mill and leaving the organization's strategy shrouded in mystery. What's clear, however, is that the departure of Luther Burden marks a dramatic turning point for the Bears. Questions abound about the team's next move and whether they can fill the void left by a player who not only delivered on the field, but also captured the hearts of Chicago fans. As whispers turn into headlines, one thing is certain. The NFL is bracing for the ripple effects of a decision that nobody saw coming. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.